Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'm making this, which is a triangular pouch. I do like the shape, it's very different, very easy to make up. 2 fabrics, a lining. This one I have put a handle, and yeah, so that's today's project. So here I have a 6-inch squared fabric. So this is my front. I've already interfaced it at the back, and I've got my lining here as well. So I've got front and the back and 2 linings. I'm also making another one at the same time, a smaller one. So this particular one that I'm actually using here is 5 inches. The one that I made this with was 6 inches, and this one is 4 inches. And I've already gone ahead and interface the back of it. And yes, I have been frugal because I do keep my small pieces of interfacing because you never know when they can come in handy, and so I've used them on here. So I repeated, this particular one that I'm using at the moment is 5-inch squared. This one is 4-inch squared. This is my tab, which I have done at 3 inches by 2 inches, and then I've turned the 2 in towards the middle. I'm not going to turn it over like that, I'm just going to leave it like that. Then I'm going to fold that over, and there's my tab. You can sew here and here if you want to. I'm not going to in this instance. And then I also have my zip. Now I have a very long zip because I'm going to cut it in half, or roughly to the size that I need for here and the size that I need for here. I've already changed my zip colors, so I just applied them on. This is the original zip there, and then I have marked where I'm going to cut it eventually, and put this color is going with this one, and the yellow one is going to go with this one, or maybe it's the other way around, I can't remember. I'll find out at the end which one of I like. So what do we do next? You're going to apply your zip in between like this as your butterfly, as I call it. So we'll go through that again. So that's going to go here. The lining is going to go on the back. Now what you have to be aware of is when you've got your fabrics is what direction you want them in, because although these look the same, the cross is slightly changed here, and this is where your zip is going to go. So this is going to be the front part, so this will be this piece here. This one is a little easier to see. As you can see, I cut this one in half like that, but if I was to go like that, you can see the difference, or like that. But if that is your desire of how you want it to look, that is absolutely fine. It's all about creativity. Let's do this. So I've already gone ahead and applied my interface into the front. You can do it to the back if you want, that's not a problem. I've already gone ahead and pressed this into each other. So literally what I did was, you can press it in half if you want to find your center line, or you can just finger press it, open it out again, and then I pressed it in towards the middle, and I've left it to this point because what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it like that, and I'm just going to use it as my tab, and that will be just help me close the zip up and down. So here you can see I've applied the 2 bags, or half the bags, onto the zip. That's the back, that's the back, and there, whoops, there is my front. So I'm going to apply them one time, I'm going to sew it here, sew it straight down here, and then I'm going to do the other side, and then I'm going to top stitch, and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So I sorted myself out with my zips, as in the colours. So you can see here, this one is connected and this one's connected. So now I can cut the zip in half and they become two individuals. So let me go ahead and do that. Done. Now, we need to go back. I'm going to work just with this one. Go back and we find our tab that we made. Now, if you want to, you could stitch along here if it makes it a bit easier for you. I'm just going to use a clip. So where I'm going to place it, I'm going to move the zip a little bit out of the way so it's not in my way. But at the same time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the top now. So this is where my zip would normally close. I still got this one connected so you can see. So that's the bottom of my zip, and then this will be the top that will go up here. So I'm looking to where the top of the zip would have been, which would be here. Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to separate the lining from the front. And I'm going to place this tab folded over and I'm going to place it about here. Do you see that? So this is out of the way and I'm going to sew this tab onto here. If you find this a little bit thick for you, you can always make it whatever size that you want. So I'm just going to connect it here so that it is ready for me. So it won't be in the way of any pins. So there we have them. You can see there. So if you notice, it's not on the zip, just a little bit away. And the same on this one, just a little bit away, and it's just to the back there. So now we are going to open our zip out halfway. I have to be careful here because mine might come off. About here. And we're going to close over the front and we're going to close over the back. And we're going to sew here and here for the time being. Just these sides. So again, I repeat it with this one. I'm going to close, open up the zip, it's already open, close over the pretty side, two linings, and we're just going to sew this side. I'll be back in a moment. Now that I've done that, I'm going to open the side that doesn't have the tab piece. So I'm going to close that part like this. So what I've done is I've gotten the part that's the bottom of the zip tab here. Can you see? I still have that on. And I'm going to open this out. It's like a fish mouth and close that together. You're going to put the center where your seam line was to here, best you can. You could put your seam this way if you want, or this way, or you can open it out. I'm going to open my one out like that, just so you can see. And we see here, hoping this is clear, in the middle. So that's that part. So just whilst I'm holding that, I'm just going to put a clip here and here. And now you're going to repeat the same on the back. So the back part, you're going to open that out and you're going to connect it with the front like that. If you put your seam this way, the one in the back must go the opposite way, or you can have them open. The seams go the opposite way. And as this one seems to have decided it wants to close up, I'll just do the opposite way and make sure here and here is lined up as best you can. And just put a clip there, and I'm going to do the same on the other side, and there you are. So this one I just want to connect down, just so it stays in the way that I want it to go. And we're going to sew across here. So we're leaving this one, we're sewing this one. I'll repeat that all again now. So for this is the top of my, this is the bottom, because this is my top here, because I can see my tab, on my tab that we just sewn. So I'll stick that in there, turn it around to the bottom, My zip is opened. I'm going to open all the way down here, not just here, but open all the way down without opening your zip. Fasten that in there. And then repeat at the back. And then we're going to sew across here. And back a second. Okay, so done that. I back stitched over this twice because it is a stress point, and the same here. Don't know if you can see any better in this colour, probably not. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut this piece off and cut this piece off because it's in my way. So I'm going to cut, do our corners, so it folds nicer. Now when I'm cutting my scissor, when I am cutting with a zip, I tend to use my paper scissors. I don't want to blunt my fabric scissors. So these ones are my fabric scissors. And then you're just going to trim your corners. And then you're going to trim your corners. Yep, so we're looking like that. Now, this is the part where you're not going to sew across here. This time we're going to open it like this. We're going to sew across here. But we're not sewing all of it. So my seam has gone this way. Can you see? It's not this way, this way. So I'm going to make sure my seam is going in the same direction. It's going to be like that. I'm just looking for some pegs, so excuse the noise. So I'm going to place that on there. And I'm going to put a clip on here. Now we cannot sew all the way across, because if we sew all the way across, we cannot turn our bag. So this piece will definitely be sewn all the way across. We want our teeth to be going towards, this is the teeth here, towards the lining. So I'm going to put that there. And we need to leave somewhere a gap. I'm going to sew from here to maybe about here. So I'll put a pin in here for me, which will make it easier for me to see. And then I'm going to sew another small piece here. So this is my gap. You could put your gap up further here, but you've got to remember that this will be a stress point where you're pulling open your bag, so you don't want to make it too big either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew from here, and don't forget to back stitch here, and then sew all the way over here, and then I'll be back. Quick note, when I sewed my last one, I only sewed up to this tiniest point right here. I didn't sew completely over. You can sew completely over, but I sewed right to this point here, right here, and then I backstitched, and then I sort of jumped where the teeth are inside here, so the thickness of these teeth, and then I started sewing again about here. So I don't know if that's very clear. So I didn't sew this particular piece. I sewed to here and I backstitched. Then I jumped a little bit and I backstitched, and then I started sewing again. So for me, that gave me a nicer finish here. Try it and see. So I now have this, which is some weird shape. There is probably a technical name for it, but I don't know. So I'm just going to cut off the end because that's in my way. And my gap here. So let me see if we can see what I did. Can you see? I sewed up to here, then I backstitched and then I started again. So I didn't sew over this piece. I'm now going to turn it. So I'm going to find my hole and I'm going to turn it all the way through and then I'll be back. And just before you turn it, don't forget to snip your corners. So when you've turned your pouch through, you're going to push out all your corners best you can. Yeah, push them out so they're nice and sharp. This is nice and sharp. And then you just have to sew the hole. I would use matching thread, so I'll change mine to purple. Sew along here. You can use heat and bond to sew that closed, or some gum hemming tape to do that, but I'm just going to sew it closed because by the time you've done all the fillingness with it, let me show you where the hole is. My hole on this one is at the top, and that's with the hemming tape. I didn't really like the look of it too much, to be honest with you, but the hole is at the top of your bag, so you don't see it at the bottom, it's at the top. So here is my bottom of my bag. When I've turned this through, pushing out all my corners, pushing that right up there because it is, just keep going. That's what we're left with. There's our little tab. There we are. And then the hole for me is back down here somewhere, so I don't even really see it. So let me just finish all this up and then I'll give you the final look. Here we have the little one that started out as 4 inches, has now become 3 inches. This was the 5 inch that now became 4 inches, and my 6 inches, which now became 5 inches. So I think they're really fun to make, nice and easy, and a slightly different version on a pouch. There we have them as a little set.